for the back, it would be T-bar rowing.
For your back, bend over T-bar, lat thickness building movements. Leg pressing, for example, is my favorite for the leg building.
Of course, training heavy with free weights doesn't mean you forget everything you know about technique, how muscles work, and what angles to work them to get the best results.
You're working a rear or behind the neck press will bring your arms more back so that you can hit slightly on the side delt as also the front delt, but it is a mass exercise. When you're doing front presses or military presses, you're working more on just your front head of your delts when you're working out. Then when you get to use dumbbells, you get more freedom of motion to work, each arm individually, plus you can rotate the arms in different ways. We can get a different feel on the deltoid, working the side and also the front.
Cutting down on your rest between sets, doing more in the same or less time, and adding additional sets and reps to your workout are all ways of increasing training intensity, but they don't apply when it comes to mass training. To build mass, you have to lift heavy weights. To lift heavy, you need to be as strong as possible, and there are several ways to ensure you're as fresh and strong as possible whenever you do a mass building set. Do your heavy mass training sets at the beginning of your workout. Get plenty of rest between heavy sets, at least 1 minute, although more than 3 minutes will not create added recuperation. Schedule your heavy workouts at the beginning of your training cycle. When you're doing a lot of heavy training, take extra days off if you feel you haven't totally recovered.
In power type training, rest and recuperation are very important. Rest between sets and rest between workouts. Without enough rest between sets, you're going to risk getting sloppy with your movements. You're going to be a little bit weak on your next set, and you risk injury that way. Without enough rest between workouts, you're basically not going to have enough time to recover. The more intense you train in this power type training, the more recuperation. You have two variables. You have training and you have recuperation or rest. If you increase one, you have to increase the other. One doesn't go without the other.
Keep in mind, you stimulate growth when you train, but actual growth takes place during the period of recuperation following training. If your sets are intense enough, extending your rest time between workouts can often increase growth. So don't be in too much of a hurry to get back onto the bench or back into the gym when you're training for size and strength.
But remember, more than 3 minutes rest is a waste of time, since by then you'll get all the recovery possible during that workout. You also need to extend your rest time between heavy workouts, either by adding extra rest days or by cycling training. That is, scheduling lighter workouts in between heavy training days.
So at least once a week, you should do at least one workout that's just for mass. You don't want to do it all the time because then it becomes very hard on the joints and they can't take it. Yeah, power training is great, but you cannot do it all the time. You have to cycle your training. You have to be able to give your body time to relax. You can't be stressing your joints. Power training is extremely stressful on the joints of your body and on the connective tissue. So you have to be able to step back and train a little more relaxed and a little more conventional in between. Say you do 6 or 8 week cycles of each, and this works out fine. It gives your body time to recover, gives your joints time to recover, and you don't have the risk of injury.
Bodybuilding training is done using a full range of motion, going from full extension of the muscles to full contraction. However, when you work a muscle through a full range of motion, you don't work more muscle fibers, you simply work the same muscle fibers more often. This involves endurance, and endurance has nothing to do with mass and power training. Besides, you put yourself in a position of leverage disadvantage at the extreme range of motion in many exercises, which means you can handle less weight. Also, stretching too far when working with heavy weights can increase the risk of injury. So for best results when you're training for mass and strength, Train through an adequate range of motion, but don't worry about stretching too far at the bottom or locking out too much at the top. Muscle tissue is composed of muscle fibers, and there are two basic different kinds of fiber types. White fast-twitch fiber, which is capable of a limited number of very fast and powerful contractions, and red slow-twitch fiber, which is not as powerful but can continue to contract for high numbers of repetitions. When you train for strength and power, you tend to recruit white fiber, which is about 22% larger than red fiber. Endurance workouts, on the other hand, any kind of exercise which involves sustained activity over a long period of time, relies more heavily on the action of red fiber. Therefore, the most effective kinds of mass training are usually those which are designed to develop the maximum amount of white fiber.
There are two basic types of muscle fibers we see: the white fast twitch fibers, which are for ballistic quick motions, and then we have the red slow twitch, which has a lot of hemoglobin in it and is more for endurance competition. Sometimes you have a combination or a mixing of both of these, and different muscle groups have different degrees or different ratios of red as well as white fibers. And it depends on the type of body prototype the individual was born with, as well as the type of training that they are performing on a regular basis.
You mentioned something about white fibers. Is there a difference between white and red muscle fibers?
Yes, there is a big difference. White muscle fiber is generally considered for speed. That's what will give you your mass. Red muscle fiber is usually for endurance type exercises, like if you do a real long set or for a marathon runner. Now, white muscle fiber is about 20% larger than red muscle fiber. So if you can recruit more white muscle fiber in your workout, you will definitely get more mass in it.
When you train white fiber properly, you generally are involving red fiber as well. However, the opposite is not true.
No, the opposite is definitely not true. Long, slow sets or time-intensive training where you don't give your muscles much time to recover are great for training red fiber, but only movements that are explosive, where speed is a factor and where the anaerobic fiber is given time to rest and recuperate, are guaranteed to get the maximum response from white fast-twitch fiber. There is a kind of weight training that is designed to do all of the above. It's based on the Weider speed principle, and it's called compensatory acceleration.
An excellent mass building technique is taking the weight and instead of under a slow and controlled movement, using what we call compensatory acceleration, and that's using the weight a little bit faster. Now, usually this is done in a power type workout in the 6 to 8 repetition range. What moving the weight faster is going to do is going to call in more of the white muscle fibers. And also you're going to want to keep a continuous overload on the muscles and also keep a great deal of leverage. In other words, two-jointed movements, such as pressing movements for the chest, pressing movements for the thighs, this sort of thing.
Mike, show me how you'd normally do these dumbbell presses.
Sure. I try to keep my form nice and strict, never letting the weight get out of control. Do as many reps as I can without losing that control of the weight.
Strict form is very important, but there's also a way to turn this into a super mass building exercise by using the Weider principle of acceleration. Why don't we go ahead and try it?
Let's do it.
Control it on the way down, accelerate all the way up to the top. There you go. From the bottom, all the way to the top. Don't slow down. Remember, we want to recruit all the white muscle fiber we possibly can. See how big we can get you. Squeeze. There you go. Drive. Nothing but shoulders. Accelerate. Good. Squeeze. One more. Speed. Good. How'd that feel?
Incredible. I felt like there was 20 or 30 more pounds in the bar.